What is the best reality for my application? How do I decide if I create a virtual reality app or an augmented reality application? Think about your use case. Can your users sit on a chair and be immersed and completely disconnected from their environment and see a simulation for education purposes, for example? Then that's a very good VR use case. But if you have to have some kind of connection with your actual environment, then augmented reality should be your choice. A great example is if you are educating a surgeon for a surgery, that's a really good use case and that you can practice in a virtual environment. But when you're in a surgery room, you can't be disconnected from your environment totally, but you might need to have some relevant information in front of you about the patient. And that's a really great use case for augmented reality.
Cool. So if you haven't downloaded the materials, please do so. And you can find them on Discord in the WT181 channel. You have to scroll up a bit, but they're also on the top of the workshop discussion thread if you want to go ahead and find them there. Otherwise, also make sure to have downloaded the Wonderland Engine 088. And if you don't have an account yet, please go and quickly set up an account on sign up. You only have to fill out first, I think only the email actually. And yeah, this email and choose a password. And then you can go ahead and sign up. And what you should then have is basically Wonderland Engine here set up. And we'll start off by starting with a new project and select VR. And name our project WebXR Workshop. If anyone needs more time because I'm for some reason too quick, I'm trying to be slow, but if I'm too quick, please unmute yourself or send a message and I'll try to make a quick break to give you the time to name the project accordingly, just in case my typing is quicker or something. No problem, Triana. Okay, cool. So let's go. If we click create, we are presented with Wonderland Engine. Wonderland Engine is a development platform for VR and AR on the web. So it's basically like Unity or Unreal Engine, but for the web, obviously, and made for the web. That means from the ground up, it's designed with performance in mind, performance inside the browser in mind, and with a super efficient workflow that we are used to as developers coming from the web space, for example. If you have this scene, you can already see, okay, there's like some hands set up and there's like some basic objects. You can move around by holding the right mouse button and just dragging the mouse. If you let go, you're back. If you press WASD, you can actually move around the scene, and if you're finding that a little too slow, then you just scroll to increase the movement speed. Apart from that, we can select objects like in other 3D applications. We have components here in the panel on the right, and we can also see all the objects and the hierarchy here on the left. Okay, cool. So we have a rough overview of Wonderland Engine. And the next thing we'll want to do is find the folder with our workshop materials and go to prerequisites. And we'll find code and models in this folder. And we want to have both inside our Wonderland Engine project. So we're going to go inside code, select JavaScript, the JavaScript folder in the asset browser, and with the JavaScript folder open on the bottom right, we just select all of these and drag and drop them in here. The same for models. We select the models folder and the models folder here on the left, and then we can go ahead and just simply drag and drop the assets down into the asset browser, which should give us the FBX and GLP folders in here. Feel free to like unmute yourself and talk. I'd be happy to like answer any question during the presentation. It would be awesome if we can make this a little more interactive, such that you guys get the most out of this. Okay, so with the JavaScript files copied down here and the models copied down here, we can actually now go ahead and set up the joining and the hosting for a multi-user experience, right? Because multi-user obviously requires some form of networking. So we're going to go ahead and add two buttons, one with which we can host a room and one with which other people can join the room that we hosted. And we're going to just go ahead and find this panel here. So again, as a reminder, hold down right mouse button and W, A, S, and D to move around, and then find this panel to then go ahead and select the button on the left. By the way, is this large enough, or can you not tell or read the text that I have on my screen? Any response will do. Size is fine. OK, awesome. Perfect. Cool. So if you have the button on the left, then you can simply open this hierarchy, select the first, then hold Shift and select the last. That should be like all of these three objects selected, and then hold Control D or tap Control D to duplicate the button. So now we have two versions of this button, one of which we will move to the right. And we can do that by either moving directly, but that's very inexact science, so we'd like to have something a little more exact here. We can select snapping on the top and set our snap increments to 0.1. That allows us to now hold this red axis to move only right and left, and then hold the control button to snap this button in 0.1 increments, and then just move it to the right. To remove the overlapping, we do the same for the other button and move it to the left. So now we have two buttons that both say thanks, but we actually wanted to say host and join. So we select the button label, which is in the hierarchy on the left, find the text component on the right, and open that to find the text property, which says thanks. And obviously here we can just say host. If we do the same thing for the other button, then call this join, then we already have our two buttons set up. Finally, we need to do one more thing, because when duplicating objects in Wonderland Engine, references to other objects don't automatically get resolved by AI. So what we need to do is we select the button object, the one that we duplicated, so our copy basically, and then we find the button component on the right panel. And this button component has a property called button mesh object. If we increase the size of the panel, we can probably also read it. So button mesh object here is currently button mesh, but this is the old button mesh. We want to select the new button mesh here. So we select that. And if we save this, then we already have two buttons that literally don't do anything. We can start our project on the green play button at the top. And that will open our browser window, which will show, OK, there's the two buttons, and if we click them, it makes a nice sound and it has like this Hoover effect, but it really doesn't do what we want yet. To get it to do what we want, we need to add another component, and that component is actually comes with those JavaScript files that you copied before. So we can select the panel and then add component on the right. And if you cannot read all the components, then again, just increase the size of this right panel. Then make sure that you have the panel selected. because resizing might select one of the other objects. And now when we have the panel selected, we can click Add Component and we'll find network buttons down here. Has everyone found the network buttons component and added it? If so, you can expand that and we can start setting the properties of this network buttons component. We'll start with the host and join buttons, which are easy. It's just like using this eye picker tool on the right and then selecting the host button for the host button. And then eye picking the other button for the join button. To set the cursor, we will expand the player object and the tracked space object on the left. And we can pretty much use any cursor we want, but we're going to use the cursor left here. So by selecting the panel again, we have the cursor property on the right. We select that and select the cursor left. Now the peer manager object actually doesn't exist yet. We need to create that. So we go to the root, right click, add object and empty. And I'll give you just a minute to catch up. I think I'm a little fast here. Is there anyone who thinks I'm going too slow? Feel free to out yourself and shout out. Happy to know if that is the case. So after right-clicking the root, adding object empty, we can select our new empty object and we're going to rename it just to be able to find it better. And it's going to call Network Manager in the properties panel here. And we're going to add two components to this. We're going to start by adding a peer manager. And that peer manager component is down at the bottom here. If we open the peer manager property, we'll see there's a couple of properties here that we'll need to set, but no problem. It's going to be pretty fast. The server ID will set to global XR, all capital letters. It's important that you all use the same ID because that means we're going to be able to join each other in a minute here, because this ID is basically the ID of the room that we'll be hosting or joining. Then the network frequency will leave as is, and the player head we'll find in our player object here, and it's going to be the non-VR camera that we have here on the left. So selecting that, player head turns to non-VR camera. The player right hand is going to be the controller right. So selecting player right hand, controller right, and selecting left hand will be obviously controller left. And then we have a network player pool, which again does not exist, but actually it's going to be the same object that we have here. So we're just going to add another component and we're going to use a peer networked player spawner, which is the last component that you should have in your list. So peer networked player spawner, you can see it here again, peer network player spawner. And then we can just use for the network player pool exactly the same object as we have here, which means we scroll down to the left to unveil our network manager. Then we can use the eye picker tool to select the network manager. And the final option, voice enabled, we can turn off because otherwise it's going to be chaotic in a few minutes when we test this. Cool. And that leaves only the pure network player spawner to be configured. And then guys and girls, it's already done. And then we already have multiplayer set up correctly. And we're just going to go ahead and select a cube for the head mesh. Head material, for example, pink. Then the left hand mesh might be a sphere. And we're going to make it yellow. And just continue with another sphere for the right hand mesh and make that green. Whatever. You can pretty much choose whatever you want. This will, for your client, so for your project, determine the appearance of other players that join the space. So now we can test this again, and this is going to be pretty fun because if we package this and then start the server, and let me see one thing, because I think we didn't set up yes, exactly. So halt. I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. On the panel, we have the network buttons component that we added just before. And of course, now that we created the peer manager object, we need to set that here too. So select the iPicker tool and select the network manager here, such that the network buttons component knows which network manager to control. So finally, save and play, which should open the browser for you. And it should look roughly like this. And I'm going to go ahead and host, and you girls can all join. And then we'll see if this will actually work. And if someone joins, then it means someone at least got the settings right and was able to follow. If you are stuck somewhere, let me know. Then we can reiterate over the properties and make sure that you all have the same things set up. Also, feel free to unmute yourself if you realize that it's not working as intended for you.
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, first, very glad you host this workshop. So I was a bit distracted with other things, and I was actually still downloading the engine when
you cool.
started.
Okay.
But I had a question: if you can package like parts in like similar to a Unity package, and then like send that over so that people can catch up. Is that a feature or?
Yes. You mean like a plugin for Unity, like a downloadable Unity package which you can distribute to other people?
And that would include like the scene and everything that you just
did.
Basically.
Yes. You have the project in the materials. So if you go ahead and open the Global XR workshop materials here that you have in the Discord.
I didn't download that yet. Sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
1 second. I will open that then. Yeah.
Meanwhile, someone already joined the what do you say? The room here. As you can see on my screen, this other person, whoever that is, feel free to like shout out, is actually using a VR headset even, which means like the hands, the spheres, are actually visible.
Yeah, that's me.
Welcome to me. One thing you'll notice is that the head, like the cube, isn't actually working correctly. And we'll go ahead and fix that in a second here, because this will also be an issue in AR. And so that's the next things that we'll do. But you can see the hands are already moving around, and you can see Timmy waving here. Is anyone else able to join? And I think Robin, right? Let me know when you're set up, when you download it, and I'll tell you where to find the project. Florian, are you able to set it up, or are you also just spectating? Robin, are you?
I'm trying to figure out which one of the folders I should use.
I think it's either 2 or 3. I think it's 2.
2.
Try number 2 and see if you can join the room here that I created.
So if I, how do I open an existing project in the editor?
You can either double click the WLP file if you use the installer to run Wonderland Engine.
I did. Okay, so it's opening a second instance. Oh yeah, okay, just like Unity. You can have multiple Unities open.
Exactly.
I got it. Yeah, and now I click play and it works.
It should just work. Exactly. Just work TM.
Oh wait, I didn't have any headset connected, but
no, you don't need a headset connected. You can run from desktop. That's the fun of the cross XR experience. It should work pretty much on any device.
Awesome, I'm in. Wait.
I don't see it yet. You have to click join. Exactly.
Shit. I teleported myself.
That's okay. You can just reload the page and then very subtly move your vision downward, and then you can still click the button without teleporting. That's an issue we will fix later on if we get to it.
Okay. Still loading. Can't click on the button. And maybe I'm gonna try the other one.
Which then try maybe yes 03. Maybe it's just one step too early.
Yeah, like I saw the buttons, but I couldn't click on any. It didn't do anything. Sorry for holding you guys back.
No worries, we have loads of time. This workshop is basically contemplated for if everyone were like super fast, we could do everything in 20 minutes, but that's not going to happen.
That's the good thing, that you just go through, explain the basics, and then fix the bugs of all people that get stuck. It also shows what you need to do when you work with the engine. Yeah, now I can click on join.
Cool. I hope you're gonna appear here in a second.
Wait. Oops. Well, it's running. I hope it's the right one.
Okay, how about this? You reload and host, and then I will click join here.
Oh, by the way, I'm running this in a Firefox browser. Is that maybe an issue?
Theoretically, it shouldn't be an issue, but we'll see in a second.
You know what?
You can try Chrome if it.
I have Chrome open as well. It's just my default browser that was forwarding it.
Okay, Timmy, I just reset the server, so you might need to join again and reload the page. For example, Robin, if you want, you can host now, and then I will join in a second.
Right. It's loading in my Chrome browser, and I will click host as soon as possible.
It shouldn't take that long. It should really only load for like a second or something at most.
Yeah. Let's see on my laptop. It could be. Oops. Oh, I teleported again. Damn it. Come on. I didn't click on the ground.
Okay, how about we fix that next? Just to get that out of the way and stop having that be annoying. So let's fix the teleporting. The teleporting is an issue because that's the way you want to navigate on VR, but you don't want to navigate like that in desktop, right? So we're going to disable the teleport on desktop. If you're back in Wonderland Engine, also Timmy, I think you're also following along. Is there? Yeah, okay, so Timmy and Robin are the only ones at the moment following along. If you want to follow along, please make sure to shout out, and then we'll get you set up with one of the projects that are in the materials archive. So go to the cursor left. The cursor left has a teleport component attached to it. This is actually also going to be used on desktop, and that's why it is interacting weirdly on desktop. We want to add a component that is called VR mode active switch. And this allows us to make sure that the components of this object are only active, only used during VR. So in VR, we can also have it only in non-VR, only in classic mode. But in this case, we're going to have it in VR as the default. We're going to do the same for the cursor right, because the cursor right also allows you to teleport in VR. And we're going to add a component here, which is a VR mode active switch. And it's already configured correctly. So now teleporting doesn't work, but that means we can also don't navigate at all in desktop. So we want to add a component, a WASD controls component, to the tracked space that we have here. So we go ahead and add the WASD controls component here. That's right below the VR mode active switch. And then we configure that by setting the head object to the non-VR camera. If we save that, we can press F5 or just click the button at the top, and the browser window will open. And now we can move around without teleporting. Ah, this is so good. And now I will host, and feel free to join too.
Sorry, I still had the browser open while hosting.
That should be fine. Could be fine, maybe.
Actually,
load and join. I think that could be fine.
I see a cube here now.
And make sure everyone reload.
Oh, okay. I have to reload. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. And you host. Okay. Yeah.
I host
for you. And now I can join.
Everyone can join, and now you can move around with WASD because of the WASD controls. And you can see, hopefully, on my screen, I suspect this is Robin moving around.
Actually, no.
No, this is maybe then source code.
Yes, I'm on desktop now.
Okay, cool. Robin, can I help you?
So. First of all, I didn't actually change the app to use the WASD, but I thought it would still be possible to join. Maybe I didn't.
Well, you can join, but the problem is you can't move around anymore if you don't have the WASD control set up.
Oh, so it would be blocking the other, like the teleport moving?
No. Oh, you didn't disable the teleport?
I did not disable the teleport. It's just I didn't update the app yet, so I was like curious, like so different states of the app could still be in the same space.
They can, yes, but you have an easier time clicking the join button if you disable the teleport.
Right. I maybe do that like, yeah, server ID global XR. Yeah, it's so great. Why is it not working to join?
So if you go to the cursor left, or I think you can probably use the number 4 right now. Even
number 4 is also...
yeah, the project 4, which will be like a step further along, I think.
Oh, okay, right. Maybe that will fix the problem. We'll see.
Try that. And
I have to leave anyway in 10 minutes, so yeah.
All right, then source code. I'll mainly focus on you then, but I saw an NSTCG Nihin, I think I know you, just joined, and Mark also joined. I don't know if you were here before, sorry if not. If you want to follow along, make sure to open the materials that are in the Discord channel of the workshop. And you'll find, I think number 3 is where we're at right now. And if you use this project, you can follow along from where we are right now. And I hope that'll allow you to catch up with what we already did. Okay, so let's continue. As we've seen, there's like a cube and spheres for the hands, which is not very beautiful, right? So we want to use actual models here. And we already have some models that I gave you with the materials and that are imported into the models folder here. And we can include them in our scene by selecting FBX on the left, the Lentis VR folder, and wait a second, I already had it selected. There we go. Open the FBX on the left, open Lentis VR, there we go, and then drag and drop the Lentis VR.fbx in here. And we see a huge Oculus headset. We will now go and change to be smaller, because this is actually a very common case that some models you find on the internet are just not modeled to the scale that you need. So we'll go to Views on the top left, Resources, and then switch to the Meshes tab. And when we're here, we can scroll down until we see the small headset on the very bottom, and we'll change the scale, which is this column here, the import scaling, to 0.04, which I found out through experimentation, but effectively you can change this a couple of times. Look if it looks correctly in VR. And if you move back, you see, okay, it's gone, but it's not actually gone. We can just move forward here and we'll find it somewhere here in the center, hopefully. Wait a second, if I select the right object, which is the group 4 cylinder at the bottom, and then if I hit F for focus on my keyboard, F allows me to focus this object. If I move forward, I can now see, okay, this headset is actually kind of the right scale now. We have a second object, which is in the GLB folder, and that is static quest controllers.glb, and we'll just drag and drop that in here too. And we can immediately see, okay, cool, this object is actually modeled to scale this time, so we don't actually have to change any properties. We will actually delete all of these now, because now that they're in our project, we'll just use them in our network manager to spawn correctly, which is like here on the player head. No, wait a second. I'm sorry. We need the peer network player spawner, where we set the cube and the pink material. And we can change the cube now, which is in the network manager object and the peer network player spawner component. We can change the cube, scroll down, and find this weird group 4 P cylinder 3 object, which is our headset object, our headset model. We can leave it pink, or we can change the material to Lambert 1, which is a gray material that looks like a headset almost. And the left and right hand are going to be changed to the left controller and the right controller mesh. And we'll just keep the colors because it looks more beautiful maybe than the original meshes. Cool. So if we try this out now and hit play, and I go ahead and host, and if you were able to follow along source code, it'd be cool if you could join. Were you able to follow along source code to me? Okay, feel free to join. No worries, no worries. 1 sec. But what we will see here in a minute is just like, since we switched out the models, it will now look actually quite a bit more decent, with not like super big cubes and super big spheres, but actual nice models that we see there. By the way, if you want to test this locally, right, then you would just go ahead and like copy the URL, create a new tab, insert that, and then you can just join from the same same device twice. Just go ahead and join here. Maybe it does indeed not work. Wait a second, source script, Timmy. I'm reloading here to make sure that I have it posted correctly. And now, yeah, now we can see. I love it. Another version here, and if we look around them. Yeah, and if you use headsets, then this will automatically also work with controllers and everything. All right, so we're done with the multi-user part of the experience, right? So next that we need to do is make sure that the cross-XR part also works. So we can just close these things, close these tabs, and make sure that we set up AR properly. And we do that by just going to Views, Project Settings, open the VR and AR tab in the project settings, and then we just select WebXR as our framework for AR. And we're done. So this will actually now work with smartphone AR if we set this up. And we do that by just connecting our USB-C. There's actually a PDF attached to the materials that you got, and it like outlines the steps very, very roughly. So if you don't have the remote debugging set up yet, and I know that Timmy does, so that should be all fine. But you would go ahead and make sure that remote debugging is set up, that your developer mode is enabled on your device, and then you can go ahead and open Chrome, inspect devices, find all the connected Android devices to that are somehow connected, in this case via USB-C. And if you open the Chrome browser here, then you can actually debug the web page. Now, there's currently a small bug in Wonderland Engine which makes Chrome crash. Well, it's kind of also a bug in Chrome, but like a very unfortunate kind of yes, you can do it on Edge as well because Edge is Chrome based. Okay, so because of this small bug in Chrome and Wonderland Engine that don't play well together, we need to make sure that we don't serve this website to our Android device via the server in our editor. And I'm just going to stop the server in here, but instead use a custom web server with like browser sync or something that we install through Node.js. And I'm going to do that really quickly here because I know most of you are only watching. So you can go ahead and find the deploy folder in your project, show in folder, then it'll open up your Explorer or Finder or whatever operating system you're using. Switch to the deploy again, and you see this is all the files that Wonderland Engine produces. And these files can be just immediately be uploaded to a web server and are served from there, and it just works, right? And you'll see, okay, this looks like multiple megabytes worth of WASM files, but that's not actually the case because only one of these WebAssembly files is going to be downloaded depending on what the browser that is accessing the Wonderland Engine website actually needs, right? So there's like one version with SIMD, one version with threads. So the optimal, most optimized version can be served to your client or to your device. Okay, so let's start the web server here. I have this nice shortcut to open this terminal in my folder. Otherwise, you could go ahead and open a CMD command line, copy this, and then CD over to the folder. Just moving over here, we can see, okay, this is this weird folder that we got here. And if we now use browser sync, which you can install with npm minus npm I for install minus g browser sync. This would install it if you don't have it already, which I in this case have. And thanks to the stream, I guess it's taking quite a while. Unfortunate. The point being that you can start browser sync through browser sync minus S for start, minus W for watch the files and reload whenever files change, and then minus port 8080 to have the same port as before. And we'll see, okay, cool, this will start a web browser, and it'll actually also start a tab, which we didn't need, but we'll just keep it anyway. And now we can go to our inspect with Chrome developer tools, the Chrome inspect devices that we have here. Make sure that we open Chrome on our Android device. And I also have it already set up to localhost 8080 here. And in just like a couple of seconds, it should detect that the device is connected, and we can see here, WebXR workshop is here. This works, this localhost 8080 works because I set up port forwarding. Port forwarding means you can access localhost on your smartphone device or on HoloLens or on Oculus Quest, right? All of this works. And you can set this up such that localhost is just forwarded through the USB-C connection onto your device. And that allows you to debug these pages very, very easily. I'm just going to inspect here so you can see what's going on. And this is literally what I'm seeing right now, and I'm going to reload this, which will give me the website on my phone. And I just noticed that the AR button hasn't shown up yet, and that's because we need to make sure that we package these changes. If we click package on the top, packaging is already done, it will automatically reload, and now we have the AR button. If we select the AR button, and I'm going to make sure to host here so we can see what's going on. And then I'll click AR to enter AR, which means I can now disconnect, and make sure to find the join button somewhere, if I haven't clicked it already. Let's see. Where is it? I cannot find it. Maybe I already joined. Apparently I did not. So let me see if I can reload and make sure I can join. Oh, wait, I can just click join here. And there you see popping up. And that is the headset, which is not, that's the mobile phone down here, which is not exactly doing what it needs. And why is this? That's the next step. Actually making sure that we're moving the head here for the AR and VR headsets as well as for desktop. If you remember, we set up this head object somewhere, right? And that was in the network manager. If you select the network manager and find in properties the peer manager, you see, okay, it's using the non-VR camera for the player head. That obviously doesn't make sense for VR or AR. We want, in this case, the left eye to be transmitted over the network. And we're gonna have to change this in a tiny script that we're gonna build ourselves, okay? And this is gonna be the only like 3 lines of JavaScript you'll be writing throughout this this workshop. So let's get ready for that. If we move to the JavaScript folder, we see our existing JavaScript components in here. We can right click and create new JavaScript component, and we're just gonna call it head switcher. And then we have the head switcher here. We can double click that. And you might receive an error message here if you're on Windows because you haven't configured anything to open JavaScript files yet. If that is the case, then just make sure to go to the folder and then right-click the head switcher component and open it with whatever app you want to choose. I choose to open files with NeoVim, but you may want to choose Atom or Visual Studio or whatever you use to edit JavaScript files, and make sure to always use that to open JavaScript files, because then the double click in Wonderland Engine will actually open the file with the right application that you chose.
Jonathan?
Yes.
I just wanted to say goodbye. I really have to head to the next session. I will catch up with the leftover coding after you upload the video. And,
yes.
Yeah, I hope we can also figure out why my connection didn't work. But yeah, awesome.
Yep.
Awesome project. So yeah, have fun. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Robin. Okay, so back to our 3 lines of JavaScript. We do not need a start or update function, so we're gonna just remove those, which makes all of this a little simpler. And this console log we don't need either, and neither do we need this parameter up there. This leaves us with like the most bare bones Wonderland Engine custom JavaScript component that we could ever imagine. And we're just going to make sure that whenever a VR or AR session is entered, that we switch the head to the right object, right, to the eye left instead of the non-VR camera, which we don't want. So adding a new line here, we can go with WL on XR session start, and that is a list of callback functions. So we push a new function onto this list to make sure that Wonderland Engine calls our function whenever a VR or AR session is started. So an XR session start, obviously. So we push this dot on XR session start dot bind this to maintain our JavaScript code such that we still use this component whenever we call this on XR start function. Now this dot XR start actually not defined yet. We don't have this function yet, so we need to create this function. We're going to do that by creating on XR session start below init, then function, and now we can do things here, do things when this session starts. Okay, and what we want to do is from our peer manager component, we want to set the player head object. Let's see how we're going to do that, because effectively we need to access that component somehow. And that is by checking the object here, the network manager, and then selecting this peer manager component from JavaScript. If we add the component that we just created to this network manager, which is the head switcher component down here, so make sure to find the network manager on the left, add the head switcher. We can now go ahead and in our script get the object and all of its components, so this object here, this network manager object, through this dot object. Now we can get components. So we get component, and we have a specific type we want to get, and that is this peer manager component. So we go ahead and set peer manager in here, and we're going to just add this to a variable and call the variable peer manager. And now we can access all the properties of this peer manager component just as they're called here in this editor UI. So we'll find, okay, there is like player head here, right? So we want to change the player head. So we go peer manager dot player head, very intuitive, is something else. And in this case, we want to have the VR head, right? So we're just going to do this VR head. Now again, this VR head doesn't exist yet. We want to be able to manually specify VR head in the editor, right? Ideally through UI, and we can do that by adding a parameter to our component. We just go ahead add VR head here. And we need to tell Wonderland Engine which type VR head is supposed to be. In this case, there's a constant WL type.object that tells Wonderland Engine that this is supposed to be an object. And that's already it. That's the entire JavaScript component. No JavaScript to do this session anymore. Everything else can be done through the editor. And if we switch to the editor, we see that this VR head property actually popped up here. And we can now select, like we do for all the other properties, an object for this VR head. And what we're going to do is we're going to select iLeft here to make sure that iLeft is used whenever we enter an XR session. So if we save this, we can go ahead and open and make sure that everything is reloaded correctly. We can host, move around a bit to make sure that in a second we can see the smartphone appear here. And I'll just reconnect the what do I say? I reconnected my USB Android device here, and feel free to connect your what is it, your HoloLens or your Oculus Quest or anything. As long as you have remote debugging set up, this should all work. Now I can click on join here and select AR. And now you'll see, okay, it's actually moving exactly the way it should. And I don't know if you can tell, you cannot, you can only see terrible reflections and the, let's see, maybe I can show you through, no, I can't. All right, I guess you'll have to look at it yourself and just follow the instructions once the recording of the session or of the workshop is up. All right, that is AR done, and VR actually is done through that as well, because it just changes the left and right eye objects as it does with VR. The left and right eye here, because they are controlled via an input component, which thankfully or conveniently we got through the VR template that we selected in the beginning. So everything is set up. Now it's a cross XR and a multi-user experience, and we're pretty much done with everything. What I'm gonna do next is just do some small kind of optional thing that you could think of, and that is in the workshop materials under prerequisites, you'll find a link in links, and that is the download environment model. And if you double click that, you'll be guided to Sketchfab. And from here, we're just going to download the auto-converted GLTF file. And this model is actually kind of huge, right? So it's 20 megabytes or something, even compressed. But that's fine, because Wonderland Engine can actually handle that quite well. Switching back to Wonderland Engine and to models, we're going to create a new folder here, which we call Arena. And selecting Arena, we see it's obviously an empty folder. And now we can go ahead and open what we just downloaded. And then just drag and drop the contents of the zip file into our newly created folder. From here, we can drag and drop the scene GLTF file into the scene view to import the model. And we'll see that we'll see nothing. And that is because this model is actually modeled in a 1,000 times too large scale. So we're just going to go ahead and select the Sketchfab model and just scale it down by 0.001 on every axis. And we see, oh, it appears, and we see only shadows. That is because the range of these lights is just not far enough. So we go ahead and select one of the lights. We open the light properties here, and we can change the attenuation, so the fall off of the light, like how less strong the light gets with every meter you go away from it. And we just set it to 0 to make sure that it keeps its strength throughout the entire distances. And we can see, hey, we have this like really cool model here, which is supposedly from like Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars or something like that. We can go ahead and just save. Oh, one last thing. The floor apparently is now a little bit higher. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we move the Sketchfab model back down a bit. And then this plane here, we don't need it anymore. We'll click it and find the mesh component and disable the mesh component such that it just doesn't get rendered anymore. We are going to keep the floor though, and we're just going to make it way larger. So 40, wait a second, sorry, we'll keep it as is here. But what we want actually is we want to change the collision, so only the extents of the collider. And we can change the collision extents by just setting the extents of our axis aligned bounding box to 40 on both the X and the Z axis. And we can see, okay, this looks way more like it. But if we zoom out, we see, okay, maybe it's a little bit too large actually. Let's tune it back down to 20 or something. And we can see, hey, 20 matches way better. It's just a little offset. So we move the Sketchfab model back to the right a bit. Saving this, we can watch it, look at it in the browser, and we can see it loads adequately fast. And we can see our new scene, which, while we can't teleport around in it, we can at least look at it with WASD. I'm just gonna try to, assuming my Quest will launch, I'll try to stream this for you to basically prove that this also works on VR. So I connect the Quest and I go ahead and wait until it comes online, and we can start the streaming through the Oculus Developer Hub. Which is a developer tool provided by Oculus to work well with your Oculus Quest. And if I find the device manager here, I hope you don't hear my Windows sound. I think there's a what do you call a disconnection on my cable. But apart from that, here we go. I have the app. This is not very promising. Let's see. Waiting for my Quest to connect. You see it pop up here. It's a good sign. I'm going to need to accept. Yep. So I just allow my computer to access files here. And apparently I need to set up Guardian. Give me 1 second. And here we go. With that, I can already start launching the browser, which should make it appear here in Chrome. Unfortunately, the headset is not popping up for streaming, which is like a very common issue whenever you want to do a workshop or something. The streaming of the headset doesn't work as intended. But what we could try is if we inspect I can at least select localhost here. And then maybe we can just try streaming, quote unquote, through the Chrome DevTools. Okay, this is unfortunately not connecting to streaming, otherwise this would be so nice to show you. I guess you just have to trust me on this. Huh. Yeah, there we go. Nice. So, fingers crossed. Connect, please. There, good. No. Try one more time. Please, please, please. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Okay, guys, so I'll just screenshot this for you, I guess. Maybe you can see then capture. This seems to pretty much work. So there we go. And if I select VR and do another screenshot, very inconvenient. Then you can see, okay, now it's actually inside there. If we go ahead and host, which I'm not sure if I hosted here, so I'm just going to reload, host, and then I can use a controller to click join here, which apparently it does not yet want to do. So maybe I have it open somewhere here still. Oh, so source code over there is already there. Unfortunately, the remote debugging doesn't want to work with me today, so, but I mean, you can see over there, someone joined over here, and like source code over there, you can even see like the head moving and everything. It's really small, but apparently, I disconnected my keyboard to be able to use the same cable for the request. So give me 1 second here, and I can also move over. Here we go. One joined via headset, and it's currently, I guess, idling, but yeah. And there's another person joining via desktop here. And if you wanted to use your phones, you could do that just as well. And as you can see, teleport works in VR. You can see like the VR person over here hopping around. Yeah, so that's basically all of this workshop done. And we still have 20 minutes left. And I know this ended up basically pretty one-sided. I think not a lot of you actually. Yeah, sure. If you want to share your screen to me, that would be awesome. So you actually get to see it in VR after all. So there you go.
Let me unmute for a second.
Yeah.
So I actually did the same thing you did with the developer hub to share it, but apparently in my case it did work. Such a weird issue. Every time you try to stream sharing the Oculus, it just decides not to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a drone or something that crashed here.
Yeah, I think that's part of the environment. I'm not really sure what they had in mind with that, but But yeah, so you can actually like explore the entire environment, and this is actually a couple of hundred objects, I think, and the performance should be pretty rock solid. And like that's kind of what Wonderland Engine is made for, to be able to handle lots of objects. Yeah. So I would suggest, if there are people who have questions, whether you followed the steps or not, what Wonderland Engine can do, what WebXR can do, how you can use WebXR, how you can make money with WebXR, like anything you might want to ask, feel free to ask now. We have like another 15 minutes or something where I'm open to answer all your questions. So feel free to just simply unmute yourself and ask away. Generally, if you want to get started with Wonderland Engine, then feel free to download. You'll get a welcome email that will already guide you into the quick start and the Discord server, which is very important because you basically get free support there. I'm always there. I'm always answering questions on the Wonderland Engine Discord. So feel free to join that and you'll get hints from there. There's a Wonderland Engine tutorial series for building a VR game. This workshop is going to be on YouTube very, very soon. And yeah, so if any questions have popped up in the last 2 minutes, let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending.
Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. So I was just wondering whether we can make multiple rooms by changing this ID.
Yes, exactly. Every ID is a new room. So if you create another server via Node.js or something that creates these IDs and just like sends them out to certain groups of people, or you use the URL to define the ID, then you can just share the room and then people can just like use that to join. And you can even check if the room already exists and automatically host. And if it does exist already, you just join. So what that means is basically it'll you don't even have to click a button to host or join. You don't have to make that decision, but you'll just automatically enter the room. And if there's no one there yet, you'll be the host. And if there's someone already hosting, it'll just automatically connect.
Amazing. Seems so powerful.
Anyone else have a question? In that case, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'll be on the Wonderland Engine Discord, which you'll also find through the website scrolling all the way down. So if you're not already there, please join and ask any question that might still come up. And happy to help you get started with Wonderland Engine anytime. And otherwise, enjoy your day, enjoy the rest of the Global XR conference. And with that, I would say we close this workshop and have fun, everyone. Be productive. See you sometime, hopefully.
Thanks. Great session, Jonathan.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, Jonathan, I joined lately, so I will mostly I will be looking at the record session later. But
That's great.
As far as I consider, this is one of the most powerful use cases I found with the Wonderland Engine. And integrating it with AR and multi-use experience, surely it will lift it to a new plane. So this is amazing. So again, thank you for a wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you.